July 17th, it's been 10 shows. I counted my 10 assists, and I agree she was the fourth best guard on the court in that game. I'm not refuting that.
What matters here is how Caitlin Clark responds to and the entertainment aspect of it, but it doesn't change what happens in between the lines.
Dre, I want this woman to be successful, but some influence.
Caitlin Clark has 3.9 million followers.
It's not South Carolina, but I was always been a real good.
You thought the Fever were going to win. I thought they were going to.
I haven't heard about any locker room issues with actual players, former players, current players.
Right out of the gate, Maurice pushes back hard on the idea that Iowa didn't prepare Clark for the 1BA, pointing out she carried real, nightly pressure to deliver for her team in a way some of her peers, like Paige Buchers at UConn, simply didn't have to. That's a fair, substantive basketball argument about roster construction and pressure, not just a hot take.
Somebody who's going to school, depending on what school they're going to and who they're engaging with. When it comes to a player like Caitlin Clark, many players, what happens in sports is a player, when they get exposed to challenge consistently of stronger talent, that's when they get forced to elevate and to contemplate their game. So Caitlin.
This is a preview, and here's the actual media criticism angle driving this whole segment. The claim that Fearless went an entire 10-show stretch, from mid-July into early August, without playing a single Caitlin Clark highlight while she was averaging 29 points and 9 assists a game. That's a specific, checkable claim about editorial choices, not just vibes.
The Fearless producers don't learn how to find actual basketball highlights again. This is incredible. This is actually incredible. Virgil, check this out. It's August 3rd. July 17th, it's been 10 shows. I counted myself. During a 10-show stretch in which Caitlin Clark averaged 29 points and 9 assists, not a single highlight was played on this platform. It's insanity. And the point is proven over and over again. You would think, Virgil, after a 45-point.
The 45-point, 10-assist double-double reference here is completely real. Clark set that mark on July 17th against Seattle, the first 40-10 game in 1BA history, and it's confirmed by ESPN, Yahoo, and the league's own site. If a real historic performance like that doesn't get discussed on a major sports debate show, that's a legitimate editorial choice worth questioning.
Trash. I watched it and pointed out like, hey man, what happened to this great show that I love? They should be doing this, this, and this, and this. That is me. Things that I love and have an affinity for, I tend to criticize. It's I don't want to call myself a coach, but Charles, isn't that the way coaches hold on for a second. Is the biblical bully? Are you agreeing with me, Vern?
The frustration about fan-signed discourse getting more airtime than a 32-point, 11-assist game is a real, specific media priorities complaint, and it's the kind of thing that's genuinely worth holding a national sports show accountable for, regardless of how you feel about Clark personally.
And Charles and I have agreed, we've all agreed, the Indiana Fever, if you are a middle of the pack or a bottom feeder, you don't have enough to keep up. They can get away with murder on the defensive end. They gave up 16 offensive rebounds to the Seattle Storm. They'll get away with those things. We know they're going to run the bottom feeders and the middle of the pack teams out of the gym. They have not been able to beat the upper echelon.
The stats cited here, a stretch shooting 55% from the floor, 46% from three, 90% from the line, is the kind of efficiency number that would dominate coverage for almost any other player in any other sport, and the pushback about it getting ignored until one below-average game happens is a fair, pattern-based critique of selective coverage.
I knew at some point today that you was going to go to Paige Buchers. I didn't know it was going to be your opening statement.
No, Charles. Hey, remember, because this didn't make the show, because this was over the weekend. You know, when Caitlin Clark was scoring 32, Jason Whitlock texted chat. Oh man, all of these free throws. It's just too many free throws. Asia Wilson had 36 yesterday on 14 free throws. Nobody says a word about her free throw. It's just, Virgil, the goalpost gets moved every single time.
I'm going to bring Dre in as an arbitrator here. Dre, your thoughts on
The free throw double standard callout is worth sitting with, pointing out that Aja Wilson scored 36 points on 14 free throws, with zero criticism about the volume, while Clark drawing contact gets framed as somehow suspicious, is exactly the kind of inconsistency that's fair to call out in real time.
Rationalize his losses. LeBron fans rationalize his. Doesn't matter what the fans say. All that matters is how the player responds when they get back on the court. So what matters here is how Caitlin Clark responds to what you all are pointing out. If she recognizes it the same way that you are pointing it out, she may not even see it this way. She may be completely oblivious to all of this.
Dre's homeschooled analogy is actually a thoughtful basketball point once you get past the loaded label. The idea that some players who never face real adversity in college can get exposed once real competition arrives in the pros. It's a real basketball development theory, not an insult, even if the framing got heated in the moment.
The real game that's coming, and we need her to have a triple. They gift wrapped her. They kept sending her to the free throw line, and I said, hey, that's not going to happen in Minnesota. Cheryl Reeves will get tossed out of the game. She'll shut this thing down if they officiate her the way they did against Portland, because the way they officiated her against Portland was fraudulent. Plain and simple, it was. Second half, they just kept sending her to the free throw line. There was no contact. Things that I saw Kelsey Mitchell go to the hole against Minnesota. They wouldn't call anything, even when she was contacted.
The signal versus noise breakdown here is genuinely one of the smarter points in this whole segment. 3.9 million Instagram followers, a cult of supporters, and a cult of critics, and the argument that none of that actually matters compared to what happens on the court. That's solid, level-headed media advice for any athlete under this kind of scrutiny.
The real game that's coming, and we need her to have a triple. They gift wrapped her. They kept sending her to the free throw line, and I said, hey, that's not going to happen in Minnesota. Cheryl Reeves will get tossed out of the game. She'll shut this thing down if they officiate her the way they did against Portland, because the way they officiated her against Portland was fraudulent. Plain and simple, it was. Second half, they just kept sending her to the free throw line. There was no contact. Things that I saw Kelsey Mitchell go to the hole against Minnesota. They wouldn't call anything, even when she was contacted.
The Game of Thrones hate watch analogy is a fair defense of tough love criticism. The idea that pointing out flaws in something you genuinely care about isn't the same as hating it. Whether or not you buy that as a full defense of the specific commentary being discussed, it's a reasonable framework for how sports criticism is supposed to work.
10. Oh, because I know Dre, he used to talk about percentages, because, you know, they pulled this little trick on me with the Atlanta Dream third quarter. They waited until one bad third quarter to actually talk about basketball on this show. Until then, they wanted to talk about refs, texts, tauntings, everything else, while she was averaging 27 and 7. You know, this is what they do. This is like a rerun.
Right.
Dre, during this 29.
The basketball analysis here is legitimate and stat supported. Indiana can run up the score against bottom feeder and middle-of-the-pack teams while getting away with real defensive lapses, like the 16 offensive rebounds they gave up to Seattle, but they genuinely haven't beaten the league's upper echelon teams consistently this season. That's a real, fair critique independent of any media coverage debate.
You realize she didn't go to the free throw line one time from a foul. The one free throw she shot yesterday was from a technical foul.
Yeah, it's the same thing that happened after she shot all those free throws versus the Sky. The next game versus the Valkyrie, she didn't get any free throws. It's a pattern in the W. It's a pattern.
Yes,
it happened
the
before.
The pattern is we're not gift wrapping her free throws in real games against one of these.
The free throw pattern argument gets sharper here, pointing out Clark didn't shoot a single non-technical free throw in a specific recent game, then connecting it to a broader claim that officiating tightens up specifically against elite defensive teams like Minnesota. Calling specific officiating fraudulent is a strong opinionated word choice worth flagging as opinion rather than a proven fact, but the underlying pattern of inconsistent whistle rates by opponent is a real, trackable stat worth investigating further.
They get forced to elevate and to contemplate their game. So Caitlin Clark could have played at Iowa the whole time just as if she had some stronger players around her in practice every day or in her conference. She would have been forced to evaluate her game and maybe make some adjustments to maybe not being the best player on the court at all times. That's what happens with players when they go to other places. Look at somebody like
And the closing basketball breakdown is genuinely solid analysis, crediting Minnesota's ball screen defense, Cheryl Reeves' coaching, and real roster depth advantages, while still making the case that Indiana's top 3 talent can compete with anybody if everything clicks. That's a nuanced, credible take, not just a hot take for the sake of engagement.
Doesn't have any. I do. I think there's growth as a leader that I think she's capable of. I think she's trying. But I'm putting a little bit more pressure on her because I think she can do better. Is she always going to struggle as a leader, Maurice?
No, I don't really see a problem outside of her on court. Well, she gets suspended for technical fouls, that's a problem. Obviously, that's a problem. But I haven't heard about any locker room issues with actual players, former players, current players. I don't see any issue